Dennis Prager here for my weekly fireside chat, except I have no fireside. But other than that, it's a fireside chat. There's one other exception. It's also not in my house, that you can probably see. The other exception is that I'm going to be with somebody, which is very rare, so it's got to be somebody quite special. And
he didn't show up, so I'm here.
That's very cute.
Yes.
He did show up. Now, here's the issue. I was thinking about this. There is a rarefied crowd of whom it can be said they need no introduction. And I think you qualify. This is Glenn Beck. And, but what I want to do is ask you, and I'm very serious now.
Okay.
Again, you and I, we love kidding around, and we'll do plenty of that. But I want you to tell my viewers, or anyone for that matter, but my viewers are those who are viewing, and that is, how would
Glad he
you,
narrowed that down.
In a serious way,
Yes.
How would you want to be known? It's not an easy question, by the way.
You want a serious answer?
Yeah, I want a serious answer.
As somebody who tried to do his best, grew into being a better man and better father and better spouse.
Right. So that's okay. That's beautiful.
You don't like?
No, that's fine.
You don't like the answer?
I do, but it's all micro, which is very powerful. And now give me the macro answer.
Superman.
Okay.
Be able to spin around the earth and turn it. How do you mean?
In other words, you gave me a personal answer. So
what the papers
professionally
would say.
or the larger picture answer. That's what you just said is beautiful. But so would you want to be known? Are you a talk show host? Are you your own producer?
No, I would like to be a storyteller, entrepreneur, and I think just that, storyteller and entrepreneur.
So tell also one other thing before we get started. Just tell them where they can find you in case they don't know.
Today, on the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard, in about an hour, I'll be there and I need a ride to the airport.
That is dangerous.
Yes.
you may get
Santa Boulevard and
right.
And,
how can they find you electronically?
Hollywood and Vine, which is weird because they don't all intersect. But glennbeck.com
right.
or theblaze.com.
Okay. Anyway, it's great to have you. You and I have been together on a number of occasions.
Yes.
So,
may I say something?
Yeah, please.
I've said this to you, but I want to say it to your audience. I have so much respect for you, Dennis. I have, I told you when you were in Dallas recently, about the same time we both saw the future, and we both chose a course, and one of us actually accomplished something good.
Well,
and PragerU is truly remarkable, and what you've accomplished is, honestly, I wish I would have done something even in my life that will amount to half of what PragerU is already doing.
Well, coming from you, it's a big deal. Thank you. I will tell you, I did not expect this, I guess the word is success. I did not expect it. First, if you'll find this of interest, I wrote a book on happiness, and I have a chapter on having low expectations.
Yes.
But I actually try to live by what I preach. Right. I'm a bizarre guy, and I really do. I actually walk through life with essentially no expectations.
You have the best chance of being happy.
Yes.
And it's the best thing you could do.
You know where I learned it, by the way? You'll find this of interest, because you're a religious Mormon, I'm a religious Jew. And I learned this from a Buddhist. and it was in taking comparative religion in England my junior year. The Buddhist professor in my class at the University of Leeds in England said, so Buddhism's answer to the problem of suffering is this. If all suffering comes from desires that are unfulfilled and expectations that are unfulfilled, and the expectations, the clouds parted. It was an epiphany. And I adopted that the rest of my life. But I just want to add, I rejected not having desires. That's a place too far. That's a step too far, because I desire peace. I desire a cure for cancer. I desire to have, and I want a nice house. I want to raise good kids. I have a million desires.
Right.
I'm okay with desires,
Yeah.
not expectations.
Yeah, I think it's very Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning. I mean,
Yep.
it's very Viktor Frankl that if you just find meaning in the moment, you're good. Find meaning in the suffering. You know, the suffering, this is one of the things that really bothers me in the last couple of decades, and that is that we, and this I have to be really careful because this is a nuanced point, but we are trying to eliminate all suffering, all trouble, all problems. If my daughter has cerebral palsy and seizures, and if there's anything that I could do that could reverse that and stop it right now, I would. I'd give any amount of money to do that. I'd give my life if she could have a good, clear rest of her life. I really would. But at this point, that's not possible. And if I see the things that, because of her cerebral palsy, the good that has happened in my life, the things that I have learned, and we can either choose to focus on the bad, or we can say there is a purpose to everything. And what's the purpose of this? What am I supposed to learn? I happen to believe that God is present in our life at all the time. And so I write coincidence off. I think there's meaning behind that, but it's not necessarily going to work out the way I think it is. There's a meaning for everybody I meet and everything I do, and every mistake that I make, if I learn from it.
How big a role does God play in your daily life?
Almost all of it.
Meaning, what does that mean? See, I believe in God. I'm not sure. It's not. I take that back. It's a rare, almost foolish comment that came out. I can't compare my faith in your. I don't mean our religion. I mean just level of faith. But God is central to my life. But if I asked me what I just asked you, how does God play a role daily in my life? I would have only one answer, that I do every day think, what does he want me to do? But other than that, I can't say that he plays that prominent a role. I assume he plays much more prominent a role.
My life would be completely different if it wasn't for him. Completely different. As a recovering alcoholic and a guy who screwed up my entire life, I had no place to go, and I was really, truly on the road of repeating my mother's life, and she was an alcoholic and drug addict and committed suicide. And I sobered up, and I just couldn't hold it, and coincidence after coincidence after coincidence led me to the woman who's now my wife. I had gone at 30 to take one class at Yale. It's all I could afford, and I was going to do one class at a time. And by the time that semester started, I had filed for divorce and couldn't afford school anymore. But if you ever want to find God, go to Yale. Seriously, it's all over Yale. So I left after just one semester, all screwed up with God and just not believing in any religion or anything. And my wife, helped me really see the light, and he changed me. He gave me a second chance and changed me, and by living the principles that I believe in, it has totally changed my life, my perspective. Bad things happen, and I don't perceive them as bad. I can be happy with whatever happens, good or bad. I don't worry about really very much, and it's given me great strength and courage. And every day, that I get up, I firmly believe I know what I did with my life the first half. And I started obeying his rules and listening to him and doing what you just said. What do you want me to do today? And I've done some crazy things with my career and everything else, but it's just been trying to be obedient to him. Kellogg was going to do a study on my company at one point, and they said, you make every decision you guys make is crazy. It should never work out, and it always works out. And they wanted to know why we make the decisions we make, and I said they're not going to like the answer because it's God. I just feel that I'm being obedient.
What do you say to the guy watching who every decision turns out bad?
That I am on a very lucky streak, and my kids ask me all the time to stop saying what I tell them, and that is, enjoy it while it lasts. And they said to me, why do you say that, Dad? And I said, because this isn't reality. This is not reality. And don't get comfortable with this, because it can go away at any time. Enjoy it right now. And it's harder to say that when you are at the bottom, and I have been down at the bottom. And I know someday this crazy life that I live is going to change and end, and I could be right back, where I started financially. But I have been rich and I have been poor, and rich and poor. And honestly, there are times that my wife and I look at each other and say, in some ways, we were much happier when we had nothing. In other ways, it's sweet. But it really depends on your perspective. I don't think God cares what kind of car we drive or how successful we are. He cares about how happy you are. And if Viktor Frankl can find meaning in a concentration camp, that's who I want to be.
So let me go to some other stuff now. I don't know if I don't expect you to be aware of this, but I have been in a somewhat ongoing, very respectful, thank God, debate with very many conservatives.
Oh, I know.
You do?
I do. I actually wanted to ask you about it. Because I wanted to know what category I'm in with you. Mm-hmm. What category am I in?
I would assume that you are more critical than I am of the president.
Oh yeah, but am I in a never Trump?
I don't know. You would have to answer that. What were you during the election?
Because I don't know. I was a never Trump. Sure. But he's the president, and so what good does that do? And he's done some great things. He's done Gorsuch, which I think is tremendous, and I cheer. And I even said on the air the day that happened, when he nominated and then when we got him, because I was early on going, I don't believe this guy will do it.
Right.
I don't think
the never Trumper said.
Right. Don't believe it, and I really didn't. I went on the air as soon as he nominated him, and again after it went through, and said, I apologize. I was completely wrong on that. And good for him, good for him, good for us. And I take it piece by piece.
So I was totally opposed to him during the nomination and said from the beginning, I'll vote for him if he's nominated.
Yeah.
I've stayed completely consistent with what I said. Whether that's good or bad, I
Yeah.
don't know, but I have. So my argument was, and this is where I'd like to flesh you out, because this is disturbing to me. I've narrowed, because I love clarity, and I think I've narrowed my difference with fellow conservatives who are much more opposed to the president than I am. And I wrote this, and I've lectured on it, and that is, I believe we are in a nonviolent civil war in this country.
I believe we're in a cold war, a cold
Okay,
civil
that's
war.
fair, a cold civil war.
By the way, do you have like a folding chair? Because I think those would be more comfortable than these. I don't. Were these something you found at a garage sale? Or?
Yeah, this is not my home. We normally have it in the house.
This isn't real?
Yeah, no, that's real, yes. So next time you come over to the house, we'll give you a great chair.
Okay.
But I do believe that. In other words, I believe that the left, not liberals, I say this all the time.
Oh yeah, different.
Liberals are a non-issue. But the left is destroying Western civilization in Europe, and therefore in the West,
yes,
and in the United States. That everything I believe in, they don't believe in. This is where I think you and I right now might differ. You have greater hope for American unity than I do. I see my role is to vanquish the left. It gives me no joy, but if I am right, that leftism is a cancer in the Western bloodstream, that it has already rendered Europe godless, and you and I take God seriously, and I don't mean from a theological standpoint, I mean from a practical standpoint. No God, no wisdom, no God, no children, no God, no marriage, no God, no future, no God, excuse me, no basis for determining good and evil beyond opinion. You lose your will.
I will go a step further with you. I wrote a fiction book called The Eye of Moloch, and in it I talk a little bit about the god Moloch and how in the Old Testament he was worshipped. And I truly believe that without even knowing it, we are in a society right now that is literally reenacting the worship ceremonies that happened in the Old Testament. That just evil. Just
okay, so fine.
evil.
All right, so you are going even further than I. Fair enough. Okay, so in light of that, in the last election, and by the way, I mean, it's just, I'll give one more example because on race, okay? The liberal position, which I hold, is race is irrelevant. Your skin color is as little importance to me as your shoe size.
Yes.
And I mean that literally. I live it. I believe it. I could be hooked up to a lie detector. Dennis Prager, do you give a damn about race? And I will say, no, I do not give a damn about race. My blood pressure will not go up one iota because it means nothing to me. The only thing that means something to me is that it means nothing to me.
Right.
In other words, that is a positive good that race means nothing. The Nazis thought it meant something. That the left emulates the Nazis in saying race is important is frightening. So, in light of that, if I don't defeat the left, then racism, literal racism, wins. The belief that race is determinative. And in every area of human endeavor, that is my foe. So I had a Democrat representing the left. I had a God knows what representing the alternative. Between God knows what and I know what, I'll take God knows what. And I turned out to be right because he is governed as the greatest conservative since Reagan.
Okay.
K as
What do you want
in-
me? What do you want me to say? Here.
Wait,
yeah.
is that a rhetorical question? Or
Yeah, no,
what do you want me to
I don't, I couldn't disagree with you more that he has been the greatest conservative since Reagan in his first, 6 months. He is not inspiring like Reagan did. He is not inspiring the entrepreneur and the dreamer, the individual. He's certainly not doing that. He's certainly not inspiring people to be the best of who they are. He is, I think, doing tremendous damage to our culture, tremendous damage to our families, and tremendous...
How are families? I understand the culture.
How do I have my kids look at the president and
I see.
say,
Okay.
you're going to act like that?
Okay.
Tremendous damage. With that being said, he has passed some policies that I like, and he's the president, so I will support him when I can, and I will speak out when I have to.
Okay, well, okay. If this was a parliamentary democracy, he called elections for 2 months from now, would you vote for him?
Depending on who was running.
A Democrat will run.
Depending,
I think they're interchangeable. I don't see any difference between Joe Biden and Hillary
I don't
Clinton
see any
except
difference.
on ethics.
I don't see any difference really between Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell.
Oh, well, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know why you don't. But
well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, look at healthcare, and I want to try to move this conversation to someplace else in a second. But you look at healthcare. Donald Trump is on record stating he wants a single-payer system where the government pays for everything. That's ridiculous, and that is not conservative.
right, but that's not his position now.
No, he has taken both now. But now he is saying this today. He came out and said that maybe we should repeal all of it and then come back and look at it. That I'll cheer for. That I'll cheer for. This particular thing that he's doing now is going to have our DNA all over it. It's not going to help. It's going to make people more angry, and it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
They'll be more angry because the press will tell them to be angry. When when the society is saturated with one message, people take it seriously. Unfortunately,
right. So that's
why aren't they angry at Obamacare?
So that's where you're exactly right. Because of the media. So let me go here. That's why I'm such a huge supporter of PragerU. Why I do have hope in not going from a cold civil war to a hot civil war. Let me give 2 things. First, play this out. Let's say we get everything that we want to get. Everything. He does everything. But he has just stuck it to the other side so much. Martin Luther King would tell you, you're doomed as a nation. Let's say Hillary gets in, and she and the Democrats get everything they want, and we're living in this progressive utopian nightmare, and they stick it to the other side. At some point on either side, there's going to be 30, 40, 50% of the American people who will not go there. We're in a civil war. We're in a hot civil war. Or we're in concentration camps, or we're something. Because what do you do with 30 or 40, 50% of the population that doesn't agree? We have lost the battle. Both sides have now. Both sides have lost the battle for the American heart. And the American heart is rock solid in many cases. And our people are undereducated on both sides. The idea of listening to Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh or Dennis Prager and getting the best conservative argument does help some. But most people are getting their argument on television, and they're getting these talking points while they're screaming, and they'll remember halfway what that guy said to the other guy, and it was like, yeah, I got to remember that. But they cannot go any deeper. They'll say that, and you'll say, okay, well, help me think this through. They have absolutely no idea. That's why Prager University is so important. The second thing is I have been working on myself for about 4 or 5 years. And you can call this a design flaw with me, but I grew up in an alcoholic family. I was the pleaser. I was the one that was just trying to make peace. Believe it or not, most people don't believe this is because of my record, my history. But it's the reason why I turned CNN down 3 times and I turned Fox News down 4 or 5 times. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. But I do believe the country is in trouble, so I will do my duty so I can help save the nation. But as I was sitting there at Fox and I saw that we were making an impact, and then the impact didn't really work. And people would still, they abandon their values. They've given up hope. They're looking for anybody that's a strong man that will give it to the other side. And the other side deserves it sometimes. But so do we sometimes. We don't stand for what we say we believe. So we're two-faced. They are too. Take the alt-right and the Antifas and the crazy Bill Ayers people of both sides. Take them out. I think we're left with, if I'm on a really cynical day, 50% of America that just says, I don't want to do this. I don't care anymore. I don't want to listen. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to believe that about my neighbor. I know people who are decent and they're not like that. But we're finding that more and more of our friends are like that we can't talk to, that we can't have relationships with. I read a letter on the air this week from a woman who said, please help me. I cannot speak to my mom and my dad anymore. She's in her 20s. They're rabidly anti-Trump, and I can't speak to them anymore. And I asked my audience, do you want to live this way? I think for 50% of the country on a bad day, I think it's closer probably to 70 or 80%, they say no. I don't want, but they have no one to model. They have no one to say, look, to be able to make a difference and to be able, before you even talk about a single policy, we have to restore trust of one another. And we're never going to trust the politicians. I've been here in LA for the last week, and I've met with some of the biggest names in Hollywood and Silicon Valley. I did this about 8 months ago. I heard a lot of anger and a lot of fear 8 months ago. This time around, sitting in meetings that had far more progressive liberals who really disagree with me, I had several people say to me, I am just as afraid and maybe even more afraid of the left. We've got to stop this. There are people who disagree with us strongly on policies that are not part of the crazies. And we're all being, the press is like at the line of scrimmage, and all of the teams are lined up, and we're just beating each other like this for a yard or two to go here. There's no chance of getting a touchdown. We have to talk to the people around and say, I don't want to be that way anymore. Martin Luther King was right. Reconciliation is our only option. Malcolm X said, we got to win. If you want to win, it implies there is going to be a loser. What do we do if we win with 30% of the country that has just lost?
Well, it's very eloquent. I'm glad that you spoke. It comes from your heart, and there's a great Hebrew saying, words that come from the heart enter the heart. I heard you very clearly. I have very similar emotions, but my mind,
I know.
I'll tell you where my mind...
Dennis, so you know, I have the same thing in my mind. I'm working with some behavioral scientists right now on how can we crack this code? How can we crack this code? almost all of them, left and right, say to me first thing, no way. We're
Right.
headed
Well,
for
no,
a
I'll tell you-
hot civil war.
Okay, so, well, first of all, let me just say, thank you for the kind words about Prager University. That is, what you just dreamt of is what we're doing. We are in a civil, and every one of our videos is civil, every one.
But that's the secret.
Okay, well, it's
You can
one of
break through.
yes,
You can
that's
break
right.
through.
Well, it's half the secret. You can be civil and stand for nothing, or even civil and stand for things that aren't good. But the problem is, when you said that there was a 20-year-old woman who said that her parents can't talk to her, or whatever whatever it was, I knew without your saying it, even though theoretically it could have been either side, I knew the parents hated Trump.
Okay.
How did I know that?
Hang on. I was just with somebody yesterday
where it's the opposite.
Who is 30, that is the exact opposite.
Okay, fine. I said it's theoretically possible. The New York Times, though, which is anti-Trump, we can acknowledge that, had a piece around Christmas time last year, actually between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it was on the front page. All the people who are not going for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner this year to people they differ with on Trump. But the article said it's overwhelmingly the Democrats in the family, the left-wing people in the family that are boycotting Christmas and Thanksgiving. It's not, I don't know, I know plenty of pro-Trump people. I don't know one who won't talk to their kids or their parents because they voted for Hillary. I don't know one. I'm not saying they don't exist.
Right.
But everyone, practically, including the New York Times, knows the opposite.
So
I hate their views. They hate us. It's a big difference. And how could they not? We're six, Herb. Sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigoted. We don't have these labels for them. Our label for them is wrong. And that's it. That ends the issue. You're wrong. But we are evil in their eyes. So we must be shut down. We must. Ann Coulter goes to campuses with bodyguards. Ayan Hirsi Ali, a black woman raised Muslim, genitally mutilated, needs bodyguards.
I know.
But the most radical anti-American voice needs no bodyguards.
It is why my friends that I met with this week, and I use friends loosely, my new friends, the people I had dinner with, people I have talked to this week, have said to me, I am more afraid, one guy, I am more afraid of the left. Others, I'm becoming more afraid of the left. And most of it revolved around the universities because of what's happening. They're shutting down all freedom of speech at the universities. They're becoming militant. They are seeing it. Regular people are seeing it. But first, blessed be the peacemakers. Two, this is the exact same argument that happened in the 1960s with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
It's not the same because Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were both fighting basically decent people, white America. Whatever one wants to say, I believe that the WASP, and I'm a Jew saying this, the WASP, for all their human flaws, the American WASP has made a decent, wonderfully, exceptionally decent society. When your enemy is, let's see, in Johnson case, so who was president then? Was it Johnson? I'm sorry, was it
Kennedy?
Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. These are not evil people. They were not fighting evil. They were fighting basically decent people. And when you're fighting basically decent people, Martin Luther King's imagery of nonviolence and civility is the only way to go forward.
They weren't fighting decent people. They were fighting people that were lynching them and spraying
them down.
No,
wait. Well, lynching by then had pretty much stopped, thank God.
But if you think the South were, when the Klan was stopping the freedom buses, it wasn't a picnic.
But it was American whites. Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican, in the 50s sent troops into Arkansas.
Right.
Okay, to desegregate
Right.
a university.
Right.
So let's be clear. The bulk of America, yes, there's a tragically awful segment of the South that was simply racist, pure and as pure as racism gets. But America was moving away from that belief, including many Southerners. Jimmy Carter came from Georgia. I don't want to overstate or understate how bad it was at any given time, but I also don't want to get off the track. I think, see, here's another thing. There's a very interesting difference. You cited the biblical passage, "Blessed be the peacemakers," right? And, I mean, to differ with that is like differing with,
Right.
We need oxygen to breathe, okay?
Right.
So I'm with you. But it's very interesting to me because I enjoy this immensely. I actually do this. You should do this with religious friends. What do you think is the most important verse in the Bible? It's a very interesting little test. And because I've tested myself on this my whole life because I'm a student of the Bible. And by the way, one of my answers is Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Because if you don't accept that, don't even read Genesis 1:2. There's nothing to read after that. So I can make a case for that. But I want you to know that the animating biblical verse of my life is those of you who love God must hate evil. And I believe that doesn't sit fully well with you, because the word hate is in there, and I think that bothers you. And I'm not saying this critically. We all have emotional and intellectual reactions to words. I think hating evil is a beautiful thing. I think it's a loving thing to do.
I will stand, Dennis, I took my family to Auschwitz 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I had them read about some of the righteous among the nations. Mm-hmm. And I asked each member of the family, including me and my wife, everybody has to read about one person who saved Jews in Poland, and then we'll go. And my children and I went, and one daughter couldn't make it very far. My other daughter, I will never, ever forget, the one with cerebral palsy, standing in the room where they had the canes and the wheelchairs and the limbs, and my daughter knew she wouldn't have lived. And I met with righteous among the nations. I arranged this 91-year-old woman to sit with us for an afternoon and talk. And I asked her, I said, I think real trouble is coming. I think old evil is coming again. And I want to know, how do you water the seed of righteousness? How do I do it? I believe everybody has it in them. And I believe that that is one reason why the Lord has given me a voice, to be able to warn that evil is, George Bush used to say, freedom is on the march. Evil is on a rampage all around the world. And we have got to stand up to it. And I said to her, how do I water that tree so myself and my children are prepared and we have the tree of righteousness? And she looked at me and she said, you misunderstand. The righteous didn't suddenly become righteous. They just refused to go over the cliff with everyone else. We are a world that is going over the cliff. Up is down, left is right, wrong is right, and no one is seeing it. Everyone is seeing it, but they're not allowed to look at it. They're being shouted down, they're being told what to think, and all of us know, something is really wrong, something is bad. So I don't mind talking about good versus evil. And believe me, I would so love to have one extra passport. I know people who have passports. I know one good friend of mine has given passports to Ireland for all of his kids. I know people who have passports over in Singapore for his whole family. I want Israeli passports. And I know those will be the most unpopular next to the Americans, but I am dying on my feet. I am dying with a group of people who know exactly what they're fighting, and they will never, ever give in to evil. So my problem is, I don't believe that hate is useful. Hate and fear cloud our reason, and we need to be crystal clear. I know evil exists. I know it. We are in the challenge of our lives. I believe this is a time that will be recorded 100 years from now, and they either luckily or to our shame, history will remember our names, and historians will look back and say, what did Glenn Beck do? What did his family do? What did his children do? I want my great-grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren to be able to, unlike many Germans, to be able to stand up and say, my dad or my grandparent or my great-grandparent, they stood against it. But I don't want them to look back and see videotape or anything recorded digitally that teaches them hate.
Okay, so so I was right. It's a verse that doesn't make you comfortable. I think the verse is awesome. If you love God, how could you not hate evil? I can't resonate. I don't have a problem with hate. I have a problem with immoral hate. It's like I don't have a problem with killing. I have a problem with immoral killing. No act, virtually no act, is intrinsically wrong or right. It's the context.
Yeah.
Hatred, the Jewish belief is that the temple was destroyed and the whole Jewish commonwealth was destroyed. And it's fascinating. They don't blame it on the Greeks. They blame it on the Jews themselves. And the reason every kid who goes through Jewish studies learns this. This is not esoteric. And the reason that the rabbis of the Talmud give is that Jews hated each other for no good reason. It's called sinat chinam, hatred, gratuitous hatred. But the point is, there's also non-gratuitous hatred. There's gratuitous hatred, pointless, meaningless, baseless, and then there is earned hatred.
So is it something that you are proud of and that you say, yeah, that's good, and want your children to see that this is good and righteous, when a simple, basic entry level of an 8th grade hatred, when I'm tweeting something, a lie about Mika, and say she was over. I think that.
Yeah, no, wait. Okay.
That shovels the hatred.
All right. This stuff does enter the realm of gratuitous hatred. I agree with you on both sides.
Okay.
I agree with that. But just to establish the point, when I read what I won't say on the air, because I think it's too horrific. I just read a piece about what ISIS did to some Yazidis.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Do you not hate them? Do you not hate ISIS?
I will tell you that they make me enraged with what they're doing.
Why do you hesitate at the word hate? It's biblically based. It's rational. It's moral. Why?
I don't embrace the word, but I will tell you this, Dennis, because when I see that, and honestly, I have said, I want them dead. I want them all killed. I don't want to understand why they're doing these things.
Right.
But what I've done instead is, instead of hating, I have channeled it to where my audience and I we have moved 6,000 refugees out of Iraq and Syria to other countries, any country that would take them. We vetted them, we found them, we moved them, we paid for 2 years of their living expenses so they could get on their feet. We taught them a new language, and we moved 20,000 refugees out of camps into new homes in northern Iraq.
So, all right, that's okay. That's I'll happily contribute to your effort. I'm not joking.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying.
I'm just saying that's how supportive I am. But do you think Angela Merkel was right in taking 800,000 into
No, because that
Germany?
was just blind foolishness.
Okay, right. So that brings me, by the way, to another point that I just want to share with you. You said, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said something about God and Yale, and you're not referring to Buckley, God and Yale, in general. It's very funny because there's any one of you watching, and certainly you could see right now on the internet a piece I wrote about 20 years ago, how I found God at Columbia. And in a nutshell, it's very simple. I was going a little nuts. I was in graduate school at the Russian and Middle East Institutes, School of International Affairs. Those was my fields. And I was taught nonsense. I was taught men and women are basically the same. I was taught that America and the Soviet Union were equally responsible for the Cold War. Bright men were teaching me nonsense. And it was driving me nuts. How could this be? And I swear to you, because never happened any other time in my life, a verse from the Bible that I had learned in yeshiva in first grade. In our morning prayers, we said this every morning in Hebrew, and it is, wisdom begins with fear of God, or fear of the Lord. Reshit chokhmah yirat Hashem. And this was said every day. And I realized, oh my God, that's the answer. There's no God at Columbia, so there's no wisdom at Columbia. And here's my punchline. This is the key line, though. What I have now realized, and I mean now, literally in the last 6 months, it's painful. I wish I knew this 25 years ago. The biggest problem is not that people want to do bad. It's a lack of wisdom. And the left believes you can make a good society rooted in compassion. And I now realize that is not true. A good society is rooted in wisdom. Compassion without wisdom is worthless.
Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, Isaiah.
Right, and it's isn't wisdom, was it Book of Wisdom, isn't one of the key books of Mormonism?
Yeah, I think so.
And this is very funny.
That's old.
Maybe
is that Old Testament?
No, it's not Old Testament. But I know there's a...
No, that's apocryphal. I don't remember.
All right, doesn't matter. Maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah. Anyway.
A Jew telling a Mormon what books he has. All right, what are you going to do? Anyway, we got to wrap up, which is terrible. So go ahead.
Can I just say this?
Yes.
I found God at Yale, too, by learning all of the things that were hogwash. And at the same time, I learned a quote from Thomas Jefferson. When it comes to religion above all things, fix reason firmly in her seat, for if there be a God, he must surely rather honest questioning over blindfolded fear. You apply that to your life, and everything changes.
That's good stuff. You know, we could probably do this as a marathon.
I don't know, the tie makes me uncomfortable.
Well, the second I saw you, I said I was overdressed. This happened as soon as I walked in.
I mean, here in California, you may be the only person who owns a jacket here.
I think that is correct.
Yes.
That is certainly true.
Yes.
I came to realize you and I both had to wear ties. We went over this earlier.
Yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
I didn't stop. I like them.
I like ties too.
So it's just, and so right now it's pretty much, I realize, as part of my persona almost is my white hair. And so I'm not getting rid of my hair, and I'm not getting rid of my ties.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I started wearing bow ties about 5 years ago because I've always liked them. and I have my white hair, and I thought, you know what? I'm to the age now where I can be eccentric. I love that. I'm no longer a freak. I'm eccentric. So
Are you wearing bow ties a lot?
Oh yeah, I wear bow ties a lot. Yeah.
All right, that's great. You're a joy.
Thank
you
you,
are
Dennis.
a total joy.
Thank you very much.
I thank you. So this is one of these exceptional fireside chats where I bring in somebody exceptional, and Glenn Beck qualifies. See you next week. I'm Dennis Prager.